Listen to me for 10 seconds because what you're about to hear might explain why you've been working hard, yet your life hasn't changed the way you expected. It's not your talent, it's not your luck, it's not even your situation, it's what's happening in your mind every single day. The truth is, most people lose their future in silence inside their own thoughts long before they lose it in the outside world. If you've ever felt stuck, overwhelmed, or like you're capable of more but can't break through, this message is for you. Today I'm going to show you how the thoughts you repeat, the focus you keep, and the purpose you choose are either building your dream life or quietly destroying your potential. Stay with me till the end, because one shift in your thinking can change the direction of your entire life starting today. Thoughts create your reality because every action you take is first born as an idea in your mind, and the quality of those ideas quietly shapes the direction of your life over time. Long before habits form, long before results appear, there is a repeated inner conversation that programs how you see yourself, how you interpret challenges, and what you believe is possible for you. When you consistently think in terms of limitation, fear, or doubt, your mind begins to filter the world in a way that confirms those beliefs, causing you to notice obstacles more than opportunities and risks more than rewards. This inner lens influences the choices you make, the effort you apply, and the standards you accept, which gradually builds a life that matches those expectations. In the same way, when your thoughts are directed toward growth, discipline, and possibility, your mind starts to search for evidence that supports progress, solutions, and improvement, shaping your behavior to align with those beliefs. The brain is constantly forming neural pathways based on repetition, and whatever you think about most becomes mentally familiar and emotionally comfortable, even if it is harmful, which is why people often remain attached to negative patterns that no longer serve them. Over time, these repeated thought patterns become automatic responses, guiding decisions without conscious awareness, influencing how you respond to pressure, how you speak to yourself after failure, and how quickly you recover from setbacks. Your emotional state is also shaped by thought because emotions follow interpretation, not events themselves, and two people can experience the same situation yet feel completely different depending on the meaning they assign to it in their minds. This means that by learning to observe and redirect your thinking, you gradually shift your emotional baseline, which affects your confidence, energy, and persistence in pursuing goals. As your internal narrative changes, your standards rise, your tolerance for excuses decreases, and your willingness to take responsibility increases, which alters the trajectory of your daily actions in subtle but powerful ways. Over weeks and months, these small shifts compound into visible changes in behavior, relationships, work ethic, and results, creating a life that mirrors the dominant thoughts you consistently choose to entertain. Focus determines your future because attention is the steering wheel of the mind, and whatever you consistently give your attention to quietly directs the path your life takes. Your time, energy, and emotional investment flow toward the things you focus on, and over time, this repeated direction shapes your skills, your habits, and the opportunities you are prepared to recognize. When your focus is scattered, pulled by distractions, worries, and short-term pleasures, your progress becomes fragmented, your efforts lose intensity, and your results reflect that lack of direction. The mind cannot deeply develop what it only visits occasionally, so inconsistent focus leads to shallow growth, half-built goals, and frequent frustration. In contrast, sustained focus trains the brain to organize resources toward a single direction, strengthening concentration, discipline, and the ability to delay gratification, which are all essential for long-term achievement. What you focus on emotionally also expands in your awareness, because the mind magnifies what it repeatedly notices, making problems feel larger when attention is fixed on them, and making possibilities feel more reachable when attention is placed on solutions and growth. This selective attention shapes your perception of reality, guiding what you notice, what you remember, and what you interpret as meaningful, which then influences your decisions and behavior. Over time, your dominant focus becomes your default mindset, setting the tone for how you approach challenges, how quickly you learn from mistakes, and how persistent you remain when results are slow to appear. Focus also trains your identity because what you consistently concentrate on becomes linked to how you see yourself, reinforcing beliefs about what kind of person you are and what kind of future feels natural to pursue. By choosing to focus on progress rather than perfection, on learning rather than fear of failure, and on long-term purpose rather than temporary comfort, you begin to align daily actions with a future vision, and those repeated alignments compound into momentum that shapes your circumstances, your confidence, and the direction of your life over time. Your mind is your greatest asset because every resource you will ever use in life is first activated and directed by the quality of your thinking, and no external tool can outperform a disciplined, focused, and intentional mind. Skills, money, connections, and opportunities only become useful when the mind knows how to recognize them, organize them, and apply them toward a meaningful direction, which means the true leverage behind success is not what you have, but how you think about what you have. The mind interprets experience, assigns meaning to failure or success, and decides whether a challenge is a signal to quit or a signal to grow, shaping your resilience and your willingness to persist when progress feels slow. When trained with purpose, the mind becomes a powerful instrument for problem-solving, creativity, and strategic thinking, allowing you to see patterns where others see confusion and to find options where others see dead ends. Without training, the same mind can become reactive, easily influenced by fear, distraction, and the opinions of others, drifting between impulses and external pressures instead of moving with clarity and intention. Your beliefs about your own abilities are formed in the mind, and those beliefs act as invisible limits or multipliers on your performance, affecting how much effort you apply, how boldly you take action, and how you respond to uncertainty. The mind also regulates emotional states, and emotional states directly influence behavior, meaning that learning to manage your thinking helps stabilize motivation, confidence, and discipline during difficult periods. Over time, deliberate thinking patterns strengthen neural pathways associated with focus, self-control, and learning, making productive behaviors feel more natural and less forced, while unmanaged thinking reinforces impulsive habits that drain energy and momentum. The way you talk to yourself in moments of pressure becomes the voice that guides your decisions, either expanding your sense of possibility or narrowing it, shaping the range of actions you consider acceptable or realistic. By investing in the training of your mind through reflection, intentional input, and consistent self-direction, you gradually increase your capacity to create value, navigate uncertainty, and turn challenges into leverage for growth. Emotions follow your thinking because feelings are not automatic reactions to events themselves, but responses to the meaning you assign to those events in your mind. Two people can face the same setback, hear the same criticism, or experience the same delay, and yet feel completely different emotions because each person interprets what happened through their own mental lens, beliefs, expectations, and internal dialogue. When your thinking frames a challenge as proof of failure, emotions such as frustration, shame, or discouragement arise and begin to influence how you act next, often leading to withdrawal, hesitation, or self-sabotage. When the same situation is interpreted as feedback or a signal to adjust strategy, emotions like determination or curiosity emerge, which fuel persistence and problem-solving instead of avoidance. The inner conversation you maintain throughout the day quietly shapes your emotional baseline, and repeated patterns of interpretation train the nervous system to respond in familiar emotional ways, making certain moods feel habitual even when circumstances change. Over time, these emotional habits influence behavior by affecting energy levels, confidence, and willingness to engage with difficulty, which then shapes results and reinforces the original interpretations that created those emotions. This cycle can lock a person into patterns of anxiety or negativity when thoughts consistently predict danger or failure, causing the body to react with stress even in neutral situations. By learning to notice and question automatic interpretations, you begin to create space between events and emotional reactions, allowing you to choose responses that align with long-term goals rather than short-term comfort. This does not mean suppressing emotions, but understanding their source so they can be guided by intentional thinking rather than uncontrolled narratives. As thinking becomes more disciplined and realistic, emotional responses become more balanced, reducing reactivity and increasing stability under pressure. This emotional stability improves decision-making because choices made from clarity are less likely to be distorted by fear or impulse, gradually reshaping how challenges are experienced and how consistently purposeful action is maintained. Repetition reprograms the mind because the brain is designed to strengthen whatever patterns it practices most, gradually turning repeated thoughts, words, and behaviors into automatic responses that operate with little conscious effort. Each time a thought is revisited, the neural pathway connected to that thought becomes slightly stronger, making it easier for the mind to return to the same pattern in the future, which is why habits of thinking can feel natural even when they are limiting. Over time, repeated mental patterns become the default filter through which experiences are interpreted, shaping how challenges are perceived, how risks are evaluated, and how quickly the mind moves toward action or avoidance. This process works the same way for constructive patterns as it does for destructive ones, meaning that consistent exposure to empowering ideas, disciplined self-talk, and focused goals can gradually replace patterns of doubt, distraction, and hesitation. The words you use internally when facing difficulty matter because repetition of discouraging language conditions the mind to expect failure, while repetition of solution-oriented language conditions the mind to search for options and persistence. Emotional responses are also shaped by repetition, as familiar thought patterns trigger familiar emotional states, training the nervous system to associate certain situations with either calm determination or anxious resistance. Over weeks and months, repeated exposure to specific mental inputs forms a mental environment that influences motivation, confidence, and behavior without conscious decision-making, guiding daily actions in subtle but powerful ways. This is why intentional routines such as focused reflection, visualization, and purposeful review of goals can be effective, because they repeatedly direct attention toward desired outcomes, training the mind to recognize progress and opportunities rather than only obstacles. When repetition is aligned with clear intention, the mind gradually becomes conditioned to move toward disciplined action, even when motivation fluctuates, making consistency feel more natural over time. As these reinforced patterns guide choices and responses, they reshape habits, standards, and identity, quietly constructing a mental foundation that supports sustained growth and purposeful direction. Clarity of purpose brings power because when your mind is anchored to a clear direction, your energy, decisions, and effort begin to align around a single point of focus instead of being scattered across conflicting desires. Without a defined purpose, attention is easily pulled by distractions, short-term comfort, and the opinions of others, causing movement without meaningful progress and effort without lasting results. When purpose is clear, the mind organizes priorities more effectively, filtering out what is irrelevant and highlighting what directly supports long-term direction, which increases efficiency and reduces internal conflict. This clarity strengthens commitment because actions are no longer driven only by mood or external pressure, but by an internal standard that guides behavior even when motivation fades. A defined purpose also shapes identity, as repeated alignment with a chosen direction reinforces beliefs about who you are becoming and what kind of future you are building, increasing confidence in decision-making under uncertainty. Challenges are interpreted differently when purpose is present, because obstacles are seen as part of the path rather than signals to quit, which fuels resilience and persistence during periods of slow progress. Purpose directs learning by giving context to what skills to develop and what knowledge to prioritize, preventing wasted effort on paths that do not contribute to meaningful goals. Emotional energy becomes more stable when actions feel connected to something larger than immediate comfort, reducing the intensity of discouragement during setbacks and increasing satisfaction during disciplined effort. Over time, consistent alignment between thought, intention, and action creates momentum that compounds into credibility, competence, and inner authority, strengthening the sense of personal power that comes from living in accordance with a clear and chosen direction. When you take control of your thoughts, you take control of the direction your life moves in, because your thoughts shape your focus shapes your actions, and your actions shape your future. The mind becomes powerful when it is trained, intentional, and guided by purpose. And as your thinking becomes stronger, your emotions become steadier, your habits become disciplined, and your standards rise. What you repeat in your mind programs who you become. And when that repetition is aligned with a clear purpose, your energy stops being scattered and begins to move with force. This is how ordinary effort becomes extraordinary results. And this is how small daily choices in thinking compound into a transformed life. If this message spoke to you, take it as a sign to start choosing your thoughts with intention today. Stay focused, stay disciplined, and keep moving forward even when it's uncomfortable. I'm wishing you strength, clarity, and unstoppable momentum on your journey. Good luck on your path to growth and success, and thank you for watching, supporting, and believing in yourself.